Hey everyone, in today's video, I thought we would go through every single 35mm lens that I've used and give you guys my thoughts on each of them with lots of examples of them all as well. Today we have 17 lenses in total and I own 4 of them. I think I have a little bit of a problem with being obsessed with the 35mm focal length. I thought it would be fun to order the lenses from oldest to newest. So the first lens we have, and by far the oldest, being released in 1998, is the Canon 35mm f1.4 Mark I, and here it is in all its glory, this beautiful little lens. I absolutely love this 35. It was my first 35 prime lens and made me fall in love with this focal length so much. I used to use this lens on DSLRs, so the Canon 5D Mark II, 3, and 4. I felt like it had good autofocus accuracy. I like that the photos were sharp, but not like clinically tack sharp. It has a little bit of a film photography vibe, this lens, which I really like. I really love the bokeh from this lens, the lens flare as well, and I also, as you guys can see, it's a really nice sized lens as well. The newer version of this is actually a bit longer. I like that this is a bit compact and it's not teeny tiny, but it's not super huge and heavy either. It's just kind of in the middle. And I would say I've shot some of my favorite images ever on this lens, so I love this one. I'm never getting rid of this. Next on the list is the Sigma 35mm f1.4 art lens, and surprisingly, this is the second cheapest 1.4 lens that we have on the list today. So I use this lens on a DSLR, the Canon 5D Mark IV. I do really like some of the photos that I took on this lens, but I was having some autofocus struggles on a DSLR. I feel like if I had shot this on mirrorless, the autofocus would have been a lot stronger than it was on the 5D Mark IV. But the photos that were in focus are very beautiful. I did feel like the color rendition was very slightly desaturated on the Sigma art, but aside from that, I thought the bokeh was really beautiful and it's such a great budget 35mm lens. Next we have the Fujifilm XF 23mm f1.4. I use this lens on the Fujifilm X-T4, which is a crop frame camera. This was my first photo shoot on the X-T4, so I was super excited to try it out. I feel like the 1.4, it is a little bit of an older lens to the new version that they have out now, so the autofocus wasn't as fast as the f2 version, but it does have a very beautiful look to the photos. I love the lens flares from this 23mm lens as well. And even though the bokeh isn't the same as using a 35 on a full frame sensor, on this combination, I felt like it was just enough for me, and I did love the way that the final images turned out. Next up, we have the Sony Zeiss 35mm f1.4, and this is my lens and my current workhorse 35 that I use on the A7 III, and I use this to shoot pretty much all my client work, a lot of weddings, fashion photography, portrait work, things like that. I would say that this lens is sharper than the Canon 35 Mark I, but not as sharp as the Canon 35 Mark II. It kind of sits somewhere in the middle there. It's not a clinically sharp lens, but I think for portrait photography and wedding photography, I find that this is more than enough and produces beautiful, beautiful images. I also have to say that this paired with the A7 III or the A7R4 or like pretty much any of Sony's mirrorless cameras, the autofocus is so fast and so accurate. So it's a lens with the camera body that I know that I can rely on for my work. Next up, we have the most expensive 35mm that's on my list today. And surprisingly, this came out a year after the Zeiss, but I did buy it before I got the Zeiss. And it is the Canon 35mm f1.4 Mark II. So I got this lens to upgrade from my Mark I version. As you guys saw, it was falling apart, so I needed a bit more of a reliable lens. And this lens is so, so gorgeous. It is extremely sharp. The autofocus is really fast on the 5D3 and 4 series, which is where I used to use this lens. And the autofocus accuracy is even better when you're using it with the Canon mirrorless series, such as the R, R6, or R5. In terms of image quality, I am so, so happy with this lens, and I decided to keep it because I do have a Canon mount film camera that I want to use this lens and the Mark I version with, so that's why I've got still 2 Canon lenses even though I shoot with the A7 III. So yeah, very, very beautiful lens, beautiful images. The only thing that I really, really don't like about it is the lens flare. You guys will have seen it in some of these example images right now. A lot of these example photos were shot with a lens hood, and even with a lens hood, you still get that really ugly kind of fried egg lens flare, and it seems to always fall onto someone's someone's face, which is a little bit frustrating and hard to Photoshop out. So I would say that's pretty much the only downside to this lens. Now we have the Tamron 35mm f1.8 lens, which was released around 2015, and this is an EF mount lens, so I used it on the Canon 5D Mark IV. I was really pleasantly surprised with this lens. It is a pretty small and lightweight lens that would be super convenient to take with you while traveling. It also had really good autofocus accuracy and autofocus speed and very beautiful image quality as well. I only have one lens that was released in 2016, and that is the Fujifilm XF 23mm f2, and this is a teeny tiny lens that would be perfect again for traveling or street photography or long days of shooting. From my experience, I found that the autofocus speed is faster than the XF23 1.4, and it had really good autofocus accuracy as well. The only thing for me is that I felt like there wasn't enough bokeh for my own personal taste on this lens paired with the crop frame X-T4. So you remember how I said the Sigma 35 1.4 was the second cheapest 1.4 lens on our list today? Well, now we have the cheapest one, which is the Samyang 35mm f1.4, which is a FE mount lens. I used it on the Sony a7 III and the Sony a7C. So the Sigma, it does have a lot of mount options that you can choose from. The Samyang is only for Sony, but I really enjoyed my time with this lens. I found that the autofocus was really good. The color rendition straight out of the camera was beautiful. I love the bokeh, and I feel like when the images were in focus, they were super sharp with lots of details. Now, the next one we have is a bit of a fun addition to this list, but I was using the medium format Fujifilm GFX 100 with the 45mm f2.8 lens. Even though this lens is 2.8, I absolutely love what the bokeh looks like. I love the depth of field and the foreground to background separation. And when you zoom in to these files, which you can zoom in quite a lot, they are super crisp. So I love what these files look like, and I'm super excited to release this video soon. Oh, also, this lens ties for first place with most expensive lens with the Canon 35mm f1.4 Mark II. Now we're up to 2018, and I have the Nikon 35mm f1.8, which I used to take some self-portraits with on the Nikon Z5. Since I was shooting self-portraits, I can't really talk about the autofocus speed, but I did find the accuracy was pretty good with the majority of my self-portraits in focus. I did find that this lens was super sharp with lots of details when you zoom in to 100%. I do really like the color rendition and the way the bokeh looks as well. Moving on to 2019, I have the Canon RF 35mm f1.8. Even though this is more of a budget RF lens, I was seriously impressed while doing my photo shoot with it. I found that the photos were super sharp with lots of detail. I was using it on the Canon R6, so I felt like the autofocus speed and the IAF was keeping up with all of my model's movements and was really fast. So yeah, very impressed with this RF 35 lens. Next up, we have the Tamron 35mm f1.4 lens, which I used on a DSLR, the Canon 5D Mark IV, and a mirrorless as well, the Canon EOS R. So this isn't a super budget lens, but it's not as expensive as the native Canon lenses either, but I would say that it does have a very high-end feel to the photos it takes. Again, the autofocus accuracy was great, the autofocus speed was super fast, and I love the look of the photos. If you zoom in right to 100%, I again love all the details and the sharpness to these portraits. I would say the only downside to this lens is the weight, as it is the second heaviest lens that we have on this list today, but Tamron really didn't cut any corners when it came to making this lens, as the image quality is absolutely beautiful. Next up, we have the Sony 35mm f1.8, which is a teeny tiny lens which packs a punch. So here it is next to the Zeiss 35 1.4. As you can see, there is a fair amount of difference in the size of the lenses. While I was doing some photo shoots on this 35 1.8, I was seriously impressed with a lot of this lens's features. So the autofocus speed was really good. I was using it on the Sony a7 III and the a7C. It really didn't skip a beat out on location while shooting portraits. The autofocus accuracy was great as well. For all the photo shoots that I did on this lens, I had so many photos to choose from that were just tack sharp on my subject's eyes. I feel like the only thing I felt like it was lacking in is obviously the bokeh. It wasn't as dreamy or as magical as a 1.4 lens. The last lens we have that was released before 2020 is this big boy right here, which is the Sigma 35mm f1.2. And this is the heaviest lens that we have on the list today at 1.1 kilos. This is also the last lens of the list that I own, so this is lens number 4, and I used it on the Sony a7 III. I felt like the autofocus speed wasn't as fast as what I'm used to when using native Sony glass. It wasn't bad by any means. When I did look at the photos afterwards on my computer though, I did find that the autofocus accuracy was actually super good and the photos were beautifully sharp, especially considering I shot them all at f1.2. It's also the only f1.2 lens that we have on this list. This lens is really known for its bokeh and it really delivered during the photos that I'm showing you guys today. The bokeh is beautiful. I love the depth of field, the background to foreground separation, and there will be more behind the scenes with this lens coming for you guys soon. We're in the year 2020 now, and the next lens that I have is the Tamron 35mm f2.8. This is the cheapest 35 that's on our list today, but it is also a 2.8. The autofocus was pretty good. The color rendition straight out of the camera looked really nice. The only thing for me is that it didn't have enough bokeh since it is a 2.8 lens. It doesn't really have that dreamy feel. It's a bit more of like a realistic looking 35 focal length. Second last, we have another fun addition, which is the Fujifilm X100V. This camera has a 23mm f2 lens on it, so a full frame equivalent of 35, as it has an APS-C sensor in it. And I thought I would put this tiny little camera through its paces and take it to a professional portrait photo shoot, and I was super happy with the results that we got on this day. The autofocus was really good and kept up with our model. The color rendition of the photos straight out of the camera was so beautiful. The only thing for me is that I wish it had a little bit more bokeh, but it's not really supposed to be used as a portrait photography camera. And last but not least, lens 17 is the Samyang 35mm f1.8. I did a couple of photo shoots on this. I used it on the Sony a7 III and the Sony a7C. And I found that even though I really love the quality of the final images, the color rendition is really nice, and when the photo is in focus, it's beautifully sharp. I did find that while shooting with it, the autofocus speed and accuracy wasn't quite as fast as I'm used to, such as with native Sony glass. Now, I know you guys are gonna ask which lens is my favorite. So for me, as a Sony shooter, I usually use the a7 III or the a7C. My favorite lens is the Zeiss 35mm 1.4. That is the lens that I use the most for pretty much everything. If I was a Canon shooter, I would pick the Canon 35mm f1.4 Mark II. That is such a stunning lens, so beautiful. The only downside for me, like I mentioned, is the lens flare. And I also wanted to give a very honorable mention to the RF 35mm f1.8 as well. That lens seriously impressed me a lot because yeah, I just wanted to cover like Sony, Canon, mirrorless, DSLR. So those are my 3 lenses for each of those kind of topics. I'd love to know what you guys think as well, and also let me know in the comments if I've missed any 35mm lenses because I want to add them all to the list to try next year. And I would also love to know which one is your favorite 35 as well. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I will see you all next time. Bye!